Hello and welcome back to Stay Nerdy, my friends. In today's episode, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the difference between a scientific theory and a scientific law, and how those two things are related to one another. So the main reason we're going to talk about this is because I feel like not a lot of people understand the difference between scientific theory and a scientific law, and even if you think you do, you might be wrong, because I know up until I learned this, I thought I knew what it was, and I was wrong. So even if you think you know, stay tuned, and you might learn something new, or it'll be a nice refresher for you. So the main thing is, when I was younger, I was in a science classroom, and my science teacher taught me that how the scientific method works is you make an observation, you come up with a hypothesis based on that observation. You test you test your hypothesis in an experiment. If the experiment agrees with your hypothesis, that hypothesis becomes a theory. And then once that theory is tested by a lot of other scientists, and they all agree with it, then it becomes a law. Now, as I'm sure most of you can guess, because it's a common theme in this show, what you learned in science class is wrong. So the main thing that's wrong with that is it says that a scientific theory can eventually become a scientific law. And it can't, because a scientific theory and a scientific law are different concepts. So a scientific theory describes how something works, and it seeks to explain how it works. So for example, the theory of evolution, whether you agree with it or not, keep your opinions to yourself, the theory of evolution, it describes how the environment shapes a species in order to get it to survive in that environment. Or the theory, the Big Bang Theory, the theory, not the TV show, guys, that seeks to explain how the universe started as an infinitesimally small speck and then blew out to what we have today. While a scientific law does not explain or describe how something works. It describes a pattern that we can see in the universe, and it seeks to predict, under a very specific set of circumstances, and that's an important part, how that thing will behave. So some good laws are Charles' law, Boyle's law, the ideal gas law, the laws of thermodynamics, so on and so forth. So all of those things describe a pattern in the universe, and under a very specific set of circumstances, it seeks to predict how that thing will behave. Whereas a theory, it explains how something works, and so on and so forth. So you see, they're two different things. They don't really interchange. The other thing is, a theory, while widely accepted, still has a very small percentage of being able to be proven wrong. So, like, the theory of special relativity has never been proven wrong, and it's probably not going to be proven wrong, but there's still a chance that it can be proven wrong. Whereas the laws of thermodynamics are universally accepted, and there's no way they're going to be proven wrong. So that's the difference between a theory and a law. And the other thing is, in science, a theory is not just a guess or a hunch or so on and so forth. It is a widely accepted idea that has mountains of evidence behind it. So that's the difference between a scientific law and a scientific theory. The other thing I want to talk about is the fact that correlation does not imply causation. And the main reason I want to talk about that is because I know a lot of you understand that, but I also know that an alarmingly high number of people don't know that correlation does not imply causation. And the main reason we're going to talk about that is because I saw a graph that looked like this. And the main reason why this disturbs me is because you can see this graph, if you were to take it at face value, that seems to say that organic food sales are in fact causing autism. The red dots are organic food sales, and the green dots are autism cases. I basically copy this directly from the website. So, This seems to be implying that as organic food sales have gone up, so have the cases of autism. And that certainly might be the case, but as any of you who have been in any statistics class or an elementary physics class know, correlation does not imply causation. And what that means is just because two things seem to go together, just because two things have the same sort of overall shape, just because as one thing rises, another thing rises, or as one thing rises, another thing falls in a way that correlates directly between one another, does not mean they're caused by one another. So that graph was attached to an article that was basically saying organic food is the devil and it's causing autism in children because the way that we process organic foods is not good, and so on and so forth. And a lot of people were freaking out, and they were posting it on Facebook saying like, oh God, don't eat organic food, especially if you're pregnant, your baby will have autism. And stuff like this happens once every couple days around it here in the world. So that's the main reason I want to teach you guys that, because everyone does this. I mean, news agencies, advertisers, so many people, even regular everyday people do this. They look at two things and they say, oh, well, those things have a direct correlation to one another. How can we use that? So an advertiser will show you something like that and be like, hey, our company does not sell organic food, you should buy our stuff. A news agency will look at that and say, oh God, how are we going to get more advertisers how are we going to get more viewers to our show so we can get more advertisers? So basically everyone, when they show you a graph like that with no other evidence, they are trying to trick you. That is it. So whenever you see a graph that seems to imply a causation, ask for more evidence, because correlation does not imply causation. Thank you for watching this episode of Stay Nerdy, my friends. Share it if you want to. I'm certainly not going to force you to, because I'm not the mob. I can't do that. I would appreciate it if you share it, but, do whatever you want to do. And I just appreciate you guys watching. Some friends and I are going to start a podcast within another week or so. I'm still going to be making the episode, and I'm still going to be making the show, and I'm going to be trying to make 2 episodes a week. Definitely at least 1 episode on Sunday. So I'll give you guys more information when the podcast actually comes out. We're going to be talking about some nerdy topics like, Warhammer 40K and lots of stuff like that. So let me know if you guys, let us know some topics you want us to talk about on this show and also the podcast. If you want to, you can send an email to staynerdytomyfriends@gmail.com. or just leave it in the comments below. I'll let you guys know more about the podcast when it's released and whatnot. But anyway, I appreciate y'all watching, and I appreciate y'all staying here this long. Stay nerdy, my friends.